Planet of the Apes 2001, a remake of the classic. Nowadays, everyone complains that every other movie is a remake or a sequel to something, but that's nothing new. Even as far back as the 80s, or even the 50s, and probably even older. But when this film came out, Tim Burton coined the term reimagining, which is different, in the same way how review and video analyst or video essays different, as in, not at all. You just look like a pretentious a-hole when you just mean review. And you know this film's going to be good since it came out in 2001 and was in development since 1988. The film opens with Chimp piloting, but it turns out it was just a test flight, as Pericles the Chimp and Mark Wahlberg. They work together on a space station that should be operational in 5 years. Oh no, magnet stuff in space, send the Chimp to go investigate. But when they lose contact with the Chimp, Mark Wahlberg follows after. And what do you know, when flying a whistle into an electromagnetic storm, it shuts down the power. It also sends him flying through space and time, crashing into Dagobah. But there's no time to wonder where we are and discover the mystery of the Planet of the Apes because apes are already chasing people and tossing around kids like basketballs. This is General Fade, the Chimp, played by Tim Roth, and Michael Clark Duncan.
Take your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty human!
He said the thing! Heading through the wasteland into Ape City and going through the streets of a lot of side gags, we meet Paul Giamatti as Limbo, aka himself.
Oh, these are the skankiest, scabbiest, scuzziest humans I've ever seen.
You don't want them?
I'll take the whole lot.
It might be a little weird to say, but I like the diversity between the chimps. Like, Thade is a chimp, yet he's in the army, despite even still the gorilla is dominating it. And Limbo's an orangutan, which in the originals were all like the smart governor people, but here he's kind of dumb. Then Thade decides to pick out a pet for his niece, so gets a kid and brands them. But because Tim Burton film Helena Bonham Carter's there as Aerie the chimp, and oh, she looks terrible. I guess all the good chimp makeup went to Thade. I know Tim Burton likes Michael Jackson, but he didn't need to make a whole species of him. Either way, she thinks branding is wrong and shouldn't be treating the humans that bad. Just for Wahlberg to threaten her with the brand. Even though she was trying to help him already, so threatening her did nothing. So she agrees to buy him and Blondie here for sex favors with the orangutan. She gets them home, but oh no, Dad says that General Fade's coming to dinner. So Wahlberg has to get out of here. And it turns out the other humans can talk, even though in the original and even here, they have a discussion about how humans are not intelligent and how they think this astronaut is special. Even though Wahlberg is not special in this film because all the other humans basically act just as normally as he does. I like this shot because it shows just how amazing and also terrible the makeup is in this film. But here we establish that Thade hates humans despite getting one for his niece. Ari hates Thade, but Thade wants to give Ari his banana. I'm starting to realize a pattern in Tim's films. Guess Wahlberg really didn't need her help at all, because he just breaks out by himself, frees other humans, and then no! But luckily the humans run past the animal channel and save the little girl. Ari is still oddly supportive of Wahlberg, despite, again, not showing any more intelligence than any of the other humans. So she agrees to follow along with the party, but the old guy's lagging behind. But before you can actually care, 45 seconds later, Thad just kills him. Back on Dagobah, it turns out apes are scared of water, which is kind of accurate, but they're hyper-intelligent, so you would think they wouldn't have that superstition anymore. So Wahlberg jumps in the water instead. Then Blondie follows, and they discover a kit in the crashed ship with a flare gun and an iPhone 20. And he finds a signal, so the group heads out. But oh no, Limbo and the gorillas found him. So after one tussle with a flare gun, they agree to join them. Except Kroll the gorilla smashes the flare gun. And speaking about guns, we cut to Thade meeting his dad, Zeus, played by Charlton Heston, in his fourth to last role. Bizarre. And he reveals that Simos is Ape Jesus, and he used to be a slave of the humans. Thade does not believe this. Then Heston points out a Rolor heart. So Thade smashes the heart, and it turns out a gun's inside. And apes hate guns in this film, even though in the original they use them all the time. And of course, talking bad about guns is killing Charlton Heston. So Thade has to stop the good guys from going to Kalima in the forbidden area, not forbidden zone.
Damn them. Damn them all to hell.
He said the thing! Another thing from the original. The group comes across a gorilla camp.
You will crush them.
They wait until nightfall for them to go through instead of around, which would take longer apparently. They steal the horses, but Ari looks back for some reason and falls off, and Wahlberg gets taken out of his horse. So he has Ari piggyback on him as he runs through water that's barely up to his hip, as the gorillas are using scoop balls to throw fireballs at him, but luckily they're still scared of water so they don't follow him, even though again it's not that deep. And eventually we finally come across the holy land of the spaceship from earlier. Wahlberg just plugs this thing in, and somehow, despite being nuclear powered, all the screens and wires and power, even the nuclear energy itself, is somehow working after thousands of years. And it turns out the humans and apes got here because of the ship crashing and the apes revolting. And somehow the word spread and all the extras show up. Despite not really needing to be here anymore during day for night, they hear that the apes are approaching, and they decide to stay back because they found that there's fuel still in the ship. So they come up with a plan, but the kid wants to help out, but Wahlberg doesn't want him to get involved. So the next day, Thade and Michael Clark Duncan lead the army of apes in their silly helmets. I really like the detail that the apes run like apes do. Oh no, the kid messes up the plan, but luckily Wahlberg gets him just for the plan to go off without a hitch. They fire the thrusters, ambushing and blowing up half the apes, which leads into the big epic final battle. It's almost kind of cool, if it wasn't for the fact there's a lot of dust hiding a lot of the action, and I don't really know or care about any of these humans despite knowing them for an hour. Thade and Wahlberg square off, but then suddenly another pod arrives. It's Pericles, where all the apes recognize him as the Messiah. Despite this, Wahlberg literally just picks him up and walks with him, and no one cares about this blasphemy. Then Pericles runs off and Thade jumps Wahlberg, and again, no one cares, they just watch. And Wahlberg finds another gun. There's a tussle, but Thade gets the gun. Instead of just shooting Wahlberg, he threatens him for a minute, which gives him the upper hand to shut a door, locking Thade in a room. Then Wahlberg's like, well, apes and humans totally used to live peacefully together, which is a lie, but everyone just goes with it. And the apes and humans decide to bury their dead together, putting aside their prejudice, which has been around for thousands of years, along with their religious zealotry, just gone in a minute. Even though in real life, people are still upset about the Civil War almost 160 years later. Who cares? The film's almost over, so Wahlberg kisses Blondie. He hops in the pod and goes backwards through the warp, and he heads back to Earth, where we get one of the dumbest and most confusing endings of a film in the last century, where Wahlberg crashes into the Lincoln Memorial. You know, the ape landed completely fine. Wahlberg needs to go back to pilot school. He crashed both of his ships. He looks at the Lincoln Memorial, and it turns out it's an ape, and behind it, it turned out it was Thade. And it's become a planet of the apes. So I guess somehow Thade got out of the room, fished out the other pod from the swamp, somehow refurbished it, somehow remember there's only 2 pods and Pericles was on one and Mark took that pod, somehow also knew to go through the warp and go back in time, somehow made it back in time farther so he can somehow turn all the apes on Earth to being anthropomorphic humanoid like him. You know, the thing that makes the original ending, finding the Statue of Liberty on the beach, so iconic is because nowadays it's one of those, Luke, I'm your father, I see dead people, everyone knows the twist, even if you haven't seen the film. But it still works as a twist because originally no one knew that the Planet of the Apes was going to be twist Earth in 1,000-something years. Even though throughout the film they did technically hint towards it. So it wasn't really that much of an ass pull, and even if you weren't paying close attention, it comes as a complete shock to find out that we are on Earth still. Well, here, this ending comes completely out of nowhere because, well, the Planet of the Apes is, just like in the book, an original planet, not Earth. So how did he turn the apes to be, intelligent? Even Tim Roth, who plays Thade, doesn't really understand the ending, and he's seen the film at least twice and was in it. He turned down being Severus Snape to be in this film, and probably one of the worst career decisions since Will Smith decided not to be Neo and went to be in Wild Wild West. But originally, the ending was going to be a little sillier, with him crashing into Yankee Stadium and seeing apes playing baseball. Seriously, this film's bad, but I don't think it's as bad as its reputation. The film, minus most of chimps other than Fade, look amazing. A really nice mask, and I like the details of them acting a lot like apes, like weird sniffing and running on all fours and stuff like that. The action can be fun. They use the term reimagining, it's not meant to be like the original. But it does take inspiration from the book, so the Planet of the Apes is an original planet, and at the very end, we do see apes in like modern clothing, like in the original book, which is admirable. They tried something different than just rehashing the original. But the film's pretty bland, all the human characters are just there. Mark Wahlberg does not really stand out, especially because the other humans talk. It doesn't have any of the messaging or theming that a film in the 60s did about religious zealotry, despite the fact they have 100% proof denying it due to tradition and covering it up to keep that tradition alive. Despite being a Tim Burton film, you would 100% not notice if you didn't know already. It feels like this film was already basically complete and they just needed someone who is popular to be the director just to staple his name to the film. Love or hate him, Tim Burton is an artist, and a lot of his films do show off his unique artistic vision and tends to follow characters who are outsiders desperate to connect, and this film just doesn't do that. Overall, it's watchable, but not great. 3.5 out of 10. Just watch the original or the Rise trilogy. Remember to hit the like button, share with your friends, comment any thoughts, and subscribe if you're new.